I'll make a start. Welcome to the Fire Safety Essentials webinar presentation for Carlisle River. My name is Kerry Deacon and presenting with me is Lisa Parker. And we have a chat. Can we use names or not?
Yes, all fine, thank you.
Fantastic. Paolo, you will have heard us chatting, so you can see that we're a little less than formal in our style. We're fairly speedy to make our timetable for you, but a little more of that later on. I'll do an acknowledgement of country before anything further. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we are gathered and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into our fire business. This one, we've joined Zoom on a webinar rather than a meeting. So this means that you can't turn your video on or off, but you will be able to interact by the chat function as you've already done. And we'll be using the poll function as well, which are the little questionnaires. So we will be doing that from time to time. This session is being recorded. Now, at the moment, our participants are anonymous, and that will stay the same throughout the hour that we're together. The recording will only be of the presentation and have the voices, Lisa's and mine, in the recording. We'll be showing animations and a short video and some photos throughout the session. So there will be PowerPoint slides in the background, but we don't refer to them very often. So it's not going to be a PowerPoint slide overload. We think anyway, don't we, Lisa? Okay, so I've covered those things. When we do a poll, we'll be sharing the responses as well. So you see exactly the same screen we see, and the polls are anonymous as well. When you chat, you can chat with the panelists or you can chat with everyone, which is the other attendees, should there be any, and the panelists as well. If you need help at all, use the chat function. You can, as I said, speak with just the panelists and we'll help you out. The first activity is the chat, so we'll practice that. If you drop in the chat where you're joining us from, please, because I'm assuming Carlisle River, but sometimes people join our presentations from different areas and it's good to see what's represented. So Lisa, do we have a response there? I can't hear you. You've muted. Oh, I know. My lip reading isn't that good.
Oh my God. Well, yes, they are from Carlisle River.
Fantastic. Then we can stay focused on beautiful Carlisle River. Our next practice will be a poll. So when we launch the poll, you'll see that there are 4 questions.
I haven't got the poll up. I haven't got poll at the bottom of mine, Kerry.
Ooh. Here we are. I've got polls.
Okay.
I haven't got them because I made you the host.
Oh, but then I think I put you back as host.
Oh, I have the power. Well, there's our poll. Can you see it, Lisa?
Yep.
So, Paolo, you can respond and we can't see who has answered what.
Sorry, I'll try to stop grinning.
Of course, you can. For the purposes of the presentation tonight, you may make answers if you wish. It's really just to promote discussion. So we've got a couple of items in the chat function, Lisa. All right, so how long have you lived in the area? Have you been to a CFA meeting before? And if you scroll down, there are 2 more questions. How did you find out about the session? And how would you rate your knowledge around fire? Okay, we've got a little room to move on that last question. Have I shared it yet? Or end and share results. So a participant can see what we see.
Oh, new to the area.
Very new to the area, sensational. Well, how wonderful that you've joined the webinar tonight.
Wonderful.
There will be things to see and learn. And of course, the webinar will be posted on the Facebook site, Southwest, so that you can revisit it if you wish.
So he hasn't been to they haven't been to a CFA meeting before?
No, and you found it on the social media, which is sensational.
And they rate their knowledge around fire as low.
Yes, bit of room to move.
We can change that by the end of the webinar.
It's self-perception as well. So, you know, no matter how much you know, there's always more to learn. I'll stop. Close that one down. Okay. If there are, I want to go to the next slide. There we are. If there are children around, we need to remind you that this session is not intended for children or young people. We do get to the serious end of what fire can do. So it may not be suitable for children. You need to set your children up with another activity to keep them entertained or occupied. I know, for an hour, so there's a challenge. And if you need to attend to the children, turn off the camera and rejoin when you're ready. Like I said, we move through things pretty quickly and we do get to the serious end within the hour. Here are our learning outcomes. We aim to assist people to understand their local fire risks, also to know what to expect from a fire, how to know if there is or if there's going to be a fire, without being able to see into the future, planning and decision making for the best survival chances in a fire situation, and surviving if planned activities fail or if a sudden surprise happens, which we really hope will not happen. At the end of the session, you might be taken to a link to a CFA page. If not, there is certainly a QR code. So if you take a photo of that, Paolo, and then that QR code will be able to take you through to the CFA page where all the publications are. We'll move straight into it, understanding local fire risks. Victoria is one of the most bushfire-prone parts of the world. In fact, we challenge California for that particular honour, with the 2 areas being the most bushfire-prone. Across the state, we know that the bushfire risk differs. However, we will be talking about fuels and things like that, so we can put a bit of the equation together. On the screen, we're showing a few of the Victorian landscapes, and in the CFA, we refer to these as grassland, bushland, mountainous forest area, farmland, coastal growth, and a few other things. This map of Victoria shows the division, the regions that we use for the purposes of weather and fire danger ratings. When the fire danger ratings are given, they refer to specific areas. Carlisle River is in southwest, which is the grey area over on the left-hand lower side. So you'll see that we're anywhere from the border with South Australia across to just past Colac, but just before Lorne, covers our southwest region. Now, even within southwest, the landscapes and the fuel types differ. So we'll be trying to focus in on Carlisle River for the purposes of this webinar. But first, we've gone a bit broader. So we're looking at the seasonal outlook as given to us for spring and summer of 2021. We've been told, haven't we, Lisa, that the seasonal outlook shows increased risk of grass fires. That's because there has been a wet spring, and it continues from tonight onwards. It's going to rain. And what happens when it rains and then we have sunny days is that grasses and fuel in general grows. So with strong grass growth, further into the summer, it will dry out and there'll be a potential of increased grass fire conditions. So that's what we've been alerted to for our seasonal outlook. I had a chat with the Carlisle River captain this afternoon, and he said exactly that. So while Carlisle River Township is surrounded by grassland, of course, around that are the forests and the parks, the woodlands. So if there are grass fires that take off, it's pretty soon into the timber and vice versa. Local vegetation. Oh, it's not too often that we see such green in our photographs, is it, Lisa? So these are the photographs.
Beautiful.
The most recent I could find around Carlisle River area. However, there are two there that show us what happens once the grass has grown rapidly and then dries out. That's the CFA's concern for further into the year. Yep, that beautiful grassland surrounded. Beautiful. Woods. Now, we have an activity, Paolo. So in the chat, can you pop in there, please, the type of landscape that you think you have in your area? Although I have just told you. If you think it's different, I'm quite happy to be corrected.
So mentions that it's rural. Yep.
Yep, it sure is. That's right. And with the rural landscape, the infrastructure may not always be sealed roads. There are quite a few unsealed roads connecting Carlisle River to other towns, such as Labour's Hill.
Have grazing land. So you mentioned grazing land. They mentioned. Yes. Are you on a farm or have you got a bit of acreage around you, Paolo? Just still waiting. He's on. They're on 3.5 acres. So okay.
Right. A bit. Well, that's
lovely.
Well, it would be, and important to build into plans as well.
Yep.
Okay, so the next slide shows some aspects of local risks. Now, the picture at the top left-hand side with the power lines is probably not typical of Carlisle River, but I left it there because it shows the power lines. Yep. So when a fire starts, we have further risks such as traffic, blocked roads, trees down, and in fact the top right-hand corner photograph there is a photograph of a Carlisle River situation where a truck and tree got involved, and which meant a roadblock. Yeah. That would have happened in a fire scenario. It can be very, very dangerous, especially in Carlisle River, because there are not a lot of sealed roads taking you.
Not a lot of good access in and around Carlisle River.
Absolutely. All right, we have another poll, Lisa, where we actually ask these questions.
You get to post it. You have to post it.
I get the glamour. Okay. I am, let's see what this one does. I'm finishing that one and I can't get it I can't get it happening. I keep getting the same poll. All right, well, we can just do it without the poll. Paolo, in chat, can you tell us what are some things that could make your local area a high-risk area? If you consider the condition of the roads.
Sorry, Kerry. Kerry, I've just checked attendees and we've got Leanne as well.
Oh, fantastic.
Welcome, Leanne. Sorry if we've missed you. Hopefully you haven't been on too long unnoticed. Welcome.
Yeah. So pop into chat if you don't mind.
So Paolo mentions that they is 700 metres off a sealed road.
Okay.
So he's got grazing land, 3.5 acres, 700 metres off a sealed road. What about you, Leanne? What's your house? Like, whereabouts are you? What are your risks?
We've looked at windy roads, trees coming down.
Yep.
We did unsealed roads. And I was almost going
so Leanne mentions that they've got 5 acres on the Mooramong. Oh man, Moomarong. I can't pronounce. Can you pronounce Moomarong? Is it Moomarong?
Moomarong.
Can you break? Can we break? I don't know. Sorry if I said it wrong. So it's 5 minutes from the primary school Paolo lives. 5 minutes from school.
Well, that brings us to another risk, which can be other cars on the road, depending on the time of day.
School buses.
Possibly. Yep. And, of course, tourists, because I understand that there are walking trails and adventure activities available for tourists in the area. So the risks is that they may not know the roads as well as the locals, and so there can be road blockages in a fire situation as well.
Beautiful part of the world, isn't it?
Yes, I'm just a little envious here, Lisa. Okay, let's have a look at our brigade capacity. Carlisle River, according to the 2016 census, so this is the official picture, 95 property dwellings. I'm not sure how far around the town they've cast their net for that one. 135 people in our permanent population. And I understand that that number has dropped a little bit from the previous census. Now, Carlisle River Brigade, as much as they would love to be visiting everyone in the area in a fire threat, they only have one truck and they have a light fill as well. So
it'll be the ute. That's the ute with the light, the capacity, but it has a 4-wheel drive capacity and not a lot of water on the back of the ute.
So one ute that's probably white and one red truck. So what's the likelihood of the brigade in a fire situation coming up that driveway or even visiting people and stopping them and having a chat at the primary school? If you have any ideas, you can put that in chat.
Kerry, Leanne also mentions that she lives around the corner from the school.
Oh, good. Well, we're forming a community.
It's lovely to hear from them, isn't it? A little bit.
Yes.
Lovely.
All right. It's not very realistic that the brigade or any brigade trucks will come and visit people at their property. They would love to, but they will be called to the fire situation to help deal with the actual flames and fuel threat. So what the CFA promotes, I'm sure you know, is that people have their own plan. We promote that it's written and that the plan is practiced. So that involves picking up all the things that are precious to you, putting them in a vehicle and leaving early. And how early is early, Lisa?
And depending on your plan, early is never too early. But depending on your plan, depending on what your triggers are, depends on when you plan to leave.
Yes, so we talk about some possible triggers in a little minute, but yes, early doesn't mean when you hear sirens and smell smoke necessarily. Right. Early can be the morning of a severe day or the night before an extreme day, for example. Yep. Really important to have an idea about what you would do in a certain situation. Relying on a fire truck isn't going to work.
No.
We have a look at the nature of fire and the type of threat it poses. And as I mentioned to Paul earlier, this is getting to the serious aspect of the threat of fire because, you know, there's no way around it. It is serious. We have a little warning. So if young people are around, they should not be here. If you think that you are going to be affected emotionally by this video, please turn away. We take 3 minutes. It's an animation, but it's fairly realistic. So it does show what can happen when a fire is occurring. Okay, so for 3 minutes, and I'm going to start it.
So Leanne's new 2 carriage, just put in the chat. They're putting one together.
During a bushfire, embers will reach your home long before the flames do. Ember attacks are the most common way that houses catch fire. Embers are burning leaves, twigs and pieces of bark. They help the bushfire spread by starting spot fires ahead of the main fire front. Short-distance ember attacks happen when leaves and small pieces of bark are blown from burning trees. The intense shower of sparks that forms fills the air with hot, burning embers, which will land on nearby vegetation and properties. The hot embers can easily land and get into your clothes and burn your skin, eyes and airways. Small fires will start all around you and quickly become uncontrollable. The resulting chaos creates confusion as the fire seems to come from many directions, meaning it will be difficult to make good decisions about your safety. The experience will be physically exhausting and emotionally traumatic. Long-distance ember attack is caused by large bushfires that generate intense heat. As the hot air rises, it forms a column of smoke that sucks in air like a vacuum, increasing the intensity of the fire. The updraft in the column lifts embers, like large pieces of burning ribbon bark, hundreds of metres into the air, where strong winds can carry them many kilometres beyond the fire front. On Black Saturday, embers travelled more than 30 kilometres ahead of the main fire. When these embers land, they often start fires where leaves naturally accumulate, like in gutters, doorways and garden beds. So while you might think you're safe when a bushfire is far away, embers can fall from the sky and land around your home long before you even know there's a fire. But remember, your home isn't the only thing under threat during an ember attack. By the time you realise the danger, it might be too late as escape routes become jammed. Embers can also start fires on roads and block them completely, making late evacuation dangerous or impossible. That's why leaving early, before a fire starts, is always your safest option.
So there's a lot in that 3 minutes, but we do hope that that has helped explain how fires spread. Ember attack ahead of the flames and starting with new fuels. And then, of course, you have the fire front, as you can see in the photographs behind us.
That have a much greater risk too, being in Carlisle River with a greater amount of trees and things.
That's true. So the CFA does promote the idea of leaving early. The choice, of course, is to stay and defend, but in doing that, a person really needs to understand the threat that's going to be posed. The CFA comes from the angle that you won't be going to experience this type of danger if you're not in the area. You'll already be safe. Okay, we have another animation straight on top of that one. And again, this one's a little shorter, so around the 2-minute mark, 2.5 minutes. If you think it might be distressing, please move away from the screen and please make sure that young people aren't here. This one's about radiant heat, and we're talking all sorts of effects up to a lethal situation. So let's have a look at this one.
Victoria is one of the most bushfire-prone parts of the world. Every summer, bushfires threaten properties and lives. But did you know it's not the flames that kill most bushfire victims? No, it's the radiant heat. Most victims die from the effects of radiant heat long before they're reached by the flames. Radiant heat is what you feel when you sit next to a campfire. If a campfire heats up to 2 kilowatts per square metre, you'll feel that it's too hot and will want to move back from the fire. If you don't, this amount of radiant heat is enough to cause burns and blisters in as little as 40 seconds. At 12 kilowatts, it can cause some materials like dry timber to ignite. A bushfire can reach 100 kilowatts, and the effects can be truly catastrophic. For humans, radiant heat can cause burns from 100 metres away and cause a dangerous increase in body temperature. Radiant heat can cause the rapid onset of heat stroke. Heat stroke damages your brain, meaning you won't be able to concentrate to make good decisions as the fire arrives. Other impacts include severe damage of internal organs and death. There are some things you can do if you're caught in a fire. Cover your skin with long-sleeved natural fibre clothing, like wool. It's also useful to know that radiant heat only travels in straight lines and can't bend around corners. So, sheltering behind or inside solid structures may help protect you. But be aware, radiant heat will travel straight through glass. The best defense against radiant heat is a simple one. If you're not anywhere near a bushfire, its radiant heat can't hurt you. Leaving early is always your safest option.
So we hope that that has helped explain why radiant heat is so dangerous. It significantly affects your ability to think clearly and to make good decisions. That's why having a plan is so important, basically as a reminder of what actions and what items to collect and to take. Again, this is why the CFA always says leaving early is the safest option. Although we do understand why people might make a different decision from that. That entails being aware.
After Black Saturday, was the radiant heat still 24 hours later, was still igniting fires and causing people to become unwell, which is it's unusual. Normally the radiant heat passes, but beware after in high forest areas, the radiant heat lingers, so it's safer for you not to be there.
That's right. In fact, the brigades go about blacking out, making sure that the things that are reignited don't continue. So, okay, after major fires, it's common for the CFA to interview people about their experiences and to find out what happened and hear people's stories, to find out what they would do in the future and to help us with our community education. And on the screen, you can see some quotes from interviews around the state. So I won't read them out, but I will give you a second to take in what's been said. Okay, and this is the last of our videos. This one is a compilation of outtakes from videoed interviews. And this one takes less than a minute, but again, if you think that it's going to affect you emotionally, leave the screen. Just under a minute, this one.
Ten years ago, when all the dams were full and the tanks were full and there was plenty of water, I probably would have stayed and I would have died.
Nothing went the way we might have anticipated.
Whatever preparations you put into place, you only need something small to go wrong.
You know, in future, I don't think we'd want to put the kids through that sort of trauma, I guess. Yeah, wouldn't put the kids through that again.
If it was my choice, I wouldn't stay again. If we had another day like that, if I had the opportunity to get out, I would go before the fire even got here.
So what this means for you is that a fire would be a stressful and traumatic situation. You need to plan and be prepared for it. We've already discussed exit roads. There aren't a lot in Carlisle River and they may be blocked. Ember attack causes fire to spread quickly and it will be ahead of the fire and at the speed that the wind is travelling. Radiant heat is lethal. Your ability good decisions will be impacted by many factors. Lisa?
So to add to your situation as you're trying to leave, we're talking about you'll have livestock on the road, you'll have wildlife on the road, you'll have a lot of other cars on the road, which then poses a really difficult and unsafe situation for you to be leaving. And the roaring of the fire is really quite loud. It sounds like there's a freight train going right past you, and it's not a very nice experience.
No, Lisa is a member of a brigade at Mortlake.
Yeah, yep. But I went away. I've been away to Black Saturday into the fires at Sydney numerous times and Bairnstar. Yeah.
So she's speaking from first-hand experience. Let's have a look at how do you know if there is a fire? How do you know if one has started or if one is going to start? And perhaps you could tell me in the chat function, how would you know if there was a fire happening in the area or if your area was at immediate risk of a fire? There won't be any wrong answers. It's really an idea to give us your ideas so that we know where to start speaking.
Leanne mentioned the Vic Emergency app. Well done. Yes.
Fantastic.
Paolo mentioned 774, and he also mentioned that the animals will be acting frantic. Yes to both.
That is true. And again, something to build into a plan. All right. Well, let's have a look. Okay, I'll get this one right tonight, Lisa. These are the sources of information that come your way. You may hear people at the school gates, you know, people in down the street, a neighbour, someone from your family ringing up saying, oh, there's going to be a bad fire day in your area, or, oh, I heard there is a fire. How do you know what information to take notice of and what to just have as general background? Not everything we hear or read is accurate. And I think you two have given us very good responses there. If you're going to make decisions about your safety, double check that the information is from an accurate source and is correct. Okay, so if someone at the school gates said, oh, you know, you should buy this property, it's fantastic. Would you act on that? You'd probably go and double check. So it's the same with the fire threat. Worthwhile checking through accurate sources. And the next slide shows you some of those with the Vic Emergency app down in the left-hand corner. And without naming them, we've got radio somewhere, or local news, 774 of course, and the online versions of news, social media perhaps, but we really promote the Vic Emergency app, don't we, Lisa?
Yep.
Because it's the first, and we go into some detail a little further in our session tonight, but when a situation has started, it'll first appear on the Vic Emergency app.
Yep.
The other sources there are for where language or hearing difficulties. These are there to assist those. Fire danger ratings, we're hoping that these aren't brand new to you, that you have seen them, if not on the TV, the Vic Emergency app, or indeed on signs along roads outside of towns. But we want to know what you think it actually signifies. Now, there would have been a poll, except I can't reach it. So what do you think the fire danger rating tells us? If you can put it in chat, again, it won't be wrong. It gives us a point to talk around. Is it how many fires there are going to be? Or is
No
it
answers yet. No answers yet. Oh,
no answers yet?
well, here we go. Leanne mentioned the current risk in the area, and Paolo mentioned that it's serviced, like to be aware. Close.
Very good. The fire danger rating is meant to show on a day-by-day and a regional basis how bad a fire could be if one were to start. Or the fire...
Extreme high alert. Yes.
Yeah, the fire services take it as how difficult would a fire be to put out if one were to start. So I'm also wondering, we hear a lot about code red here, the most serious end, which is why it's coloured red. How many code red days do you think have been in the southwest region, Carlisle River region, in the last 5 years? And I'll help you out a bit. It's anywhere between 1 and 5. Oh, 0 and 5. I've given myself.
Paolo mentions 5. Oh, Leanne hasn't responded yet.
Okay.
So days of extreme that have been. Yeah, Paolo still says 5. Oh, yeah. Leanne says 5 as well. Both.
Okay, it's the code
and
red.
They say 5.
The code red, there might have been 5 across the whole state in the last 5 years. In Southwest, there haven't been any. It's a 0.
From Rob, May. Oh, Rob, we've got Rob on
Rob's
here.
Our captain. Rob's our
Hi, Rob. Rob says 1. Rob's got 1 up.
No, we've had some severe and some extreme, but not a code red. They are specific to the southwest region, my questions. So we've had 2-3 extreme days in the last 5 years and a handful more severe days. And that's because we had one outlying year that had several in the 1 year, but in that same year, there were no extreme or code red. So in any year, what we're promoting is you'll get a small number of severe, extreme and code red, if any. So making a plan to not be at your property is not asking you to not be there for most of the summer. It's only asking you to not be there for a day or 2 across the summer.
And if there's, oh, sorry, go. Sorry.
If you're using the fire danger ratings as a trigger to leave or to take particular action. I'm sorry, Lisa, what were you going to say?
I was going to mention about the code red day. So code red days are usually declared 3 days beforehand, and it goes on the curing rates. It goes on a lot of factors to declare a code red. And on a day of code reds, most schools will shut, and there's, depending on your town plan, about what closes.
Yes, you'll notice on the graphic here that there's a gap between extreme and code red, and this is the fire danger rating. Extreme and code red for the fire services are practically the same. The difference is that with code red, we're talking all sorts of emergency services being involved and agreeing that it would be more than extreme that they could help out in a fire situation, that it would be difficult for them in a fire situation. So when people tell me that sometimes they wait for code red, no, that it doesn't work that way, that code red, coloured red, the same as extreme, because from the fire services point of view, it is the same. Just a lot more coloured trucks and things going around, Lisa. Okay, so fire danger ratings, for people that think it tells us how likely it is that a fire will start, no. It tells us that if one starts, this is how severe it would be. We'll go through them. The severe, we expect hot, dry and possibly windy conditions. If a fire starts and takes hold, it will be severely difficult to put out. It may be uncontrollable. Extreme, again, hot, dry, windy conditions. If a fire starts and takes hold, it will be uncontrollable, unpredictable, fast moving. Spot fires will start, as you've seen on those videos. They will move quickly and come from many directions because they start creating their own conditions. Code red are the worst conditions for a bush or grass fire. Homes are not designed or constructed to withstand fires in those conditions. Safest place to be is away from high-risk bushfire areas. You can use this information as triggers to act, as we've already mentioned. Leaving high-risk bushfire areas the night before or early in the day is the safest option, not to wait and see on those days. And my messages tell me to promote that you avoid forested areas. A bit difficult to do in Carlisle River. Thick bush, dry grass, don't be in those areas. Make a decision about when you will go, where you will go, how you'll get there, when you'll return, and of course, what you're to take with you. What also you would do if you can't leave, and we do cover that a little bit further down the track. Lisa, were you going to say something? We also have our advice and warnings system. These come up on the Vic emergency apps as well, and you might have memories of them being read out on the radio. The advice, I'm sorry, I'll go back. Advice is to let people know that there is an incident in the area, and the area that is affected will be mapped out. We call them polygons because there'll be all sorts of shapes and shaded in the relevant colour. Watch and act means the situation has become a bit more serious and that people are to be very alert to see if it is going to affect them. And an emergency warning means that there's an emergency situation for all people in that area. We've got do not wait for a warning at the bottom of the screen. Why would that be, Lisa?
Do not wait for a warning, especially the emergency warning, because it's too late to leave. And with an advice message, the fire is generally have just been reported or generally just starting, and you need to put your action plan, your leave early, plan into place and leave. Watch and act, the fire's approaching closer and it's getting risky to leave, whereas an emergency warning, you generally won't be able to leave.
Absolutely, and it does get more serious. There's also the possibility of evacuation warnings, and in fact that graphic with the telephone there shows you some polygons in action. Evacuation is recommended or procedures are in place to have people evacuate, where people like Lisa and myself, if we're sent to an area, go door knocking. But that's if time allows us. Community information newsletters, you can click on the icon and it takes you to the actual information. They're issued every few hours or so in a big situation. You might see that for the pandemic, they issue community information once a week or something like that as things change. Do not wait for a warning, and the next slide shows us why. This is the timeline that Lisa spoke about. Let's say a fire starts. The first thing that happens after that is that the phone calls will start going in to the emergency services, 000. They'll page the brigades. Rob and his team will be racing to the station, and our fire is still moving. So Vic Emergency app and the fire brigade get notified at the same time. However, from that point on, if it's a fast moving grass fire, it's already moving and it's closer to our property there. The advice message is released often after the 10-minute mark, because the situation has to be verified. At the 20-minute mark, it's already past the property and we're still only on advice. It may be updated at around the 20-minute mark. This is an example, of course, but by the time the advice message is updated, it's already affected your house and property, and that's within the 20 minutes. So that's a little graphic of what Lisa was explaining just before. At 30 minutes, we've got a bigger situation and it's way past the property at this point.
Just talking to Rob back there. Can you go back to that slide, please, Kerry?
Sure.
Yep. Paolo and Leanne, Rob just mentioned that the turnout time for his brigade is 15 minutes. So you have a look at the map, the timeline Kerry's popped up there. By the time the brigade turns out, it's 15 minutes, and then they could be another 10 minutes to the fire. And all of a sudden you're between an advice and an emergency, you're halfway between 20 and 30 minutes. Oh, Rob's there. There's Rob. Let's hear from Rob. Can he talk, Kerry?
It should be able to. Rob, you can unmute yourself. I've given you the, I've upgraded you to a panelist. So if you want to come in and say anything at any time, you've got the ability.
Was that about right, Rob?
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, it's about 15 minutes by the time we go, page goes off, by the time we get to the station.
So that, yes, by the time, well, we need one of the vehicles there to verify the situation before the advice message is released.
Paolo mentioned what we mean by turnout time. Did you want to explain that, Rob? You can participate, or do you want me?
Yeah, well, turnout is by the time our pager goes off and we receive the call that there is a fire, by the time we get our uniform on, down on the truck down the station, and the truck turns out onto the road, that'd be 15 minutes.
Yeah. Rob, I'm so glad you've turned up. Our two participants are quite new in the area.
No worries.
Under 12 months for both?
So it's fantastic that you've come on, and of course, if they ask questions of you, they've got the chat function, then it'd be good to hear your responses. Okay, so the other situation, apart from the prediction of what the day is going to provide, is if there's actually a fire in the area. So I can ask you in chat, yeah, how would you know if there's a fire in the area? There's a bit of a hint from the graphic that's on the screen.
Yep.
Okay.
So, Paolo mentions that they would see smoke. Do you mean smoke or see smoke or smell smoke? Sorry to put you on the spot. What do you think? Both. Well done. What about you, Leanne? Oh, or either. Paolo said either. Leanne mentions that she will see flames and smoke.
Yes. Generally smoke first, and of course keeping an eye on the direction of the smoke is important. If you see something like this, well, it's time to enact a plan. Let's have a look at planning.
Okay. Kerry, sorry, can we go back that slide? Sorry.
Through the powers of modern technology, yes.
Yep. So Leanne and Paolo, a really important thing too during the summer is we all love to batten down the hatches, stay inside, close the curtains, put the air conditioner on. And when this happens, you lose your sense of awareness of what's going on around you and outside in the environment. Even though you're listening to 774 or watching TV, the ABC, it's still important that every 15 minutes or so that you pop outside and have a look all the way around your house, and look at the environment, because sometimes you might be the first to smell the smoke even before it's reported.
That's a very, very good point. Also for those, yes, if there are embers, of course, you'll want to know about it as well. Planning and decision making, we've seen this slide before. Okay. What would it be like to experience a fire? And the decision-making that can be affected during a situation. We've got a little hypothetical here. So if you bear with me, let's pretend. Let's pretend that it's 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. You look outside and you can see, yeah, it's shaping up to be hot and windy. The morning news is reporting that today is a day of extreme fire danger. You jump in the car and you shoot off to work or to a different town, Gellibrand perhaps, and you can see little branches falling from the trees and you think, oh, wow, yes, it's been hot this summer. You can feel the heat coming through the windows. And at about lunchtime, you overhear people talking about a fire that has started near Carlisle River. So you jump on the Vic Emergency app to find out exactly where. And you see that it has started a short distance from your house. So you hop in the car and start heading home because you want to make sure everything's okay. And as you get closer to your house, you see the road is blocked by police. So you pull up, wind down your window, tell them that you're a local, and they say, it's not safe to go down the road. It's not safe to go in the area, the fire is burning and there are trees down on the road. You will have to find somewhere else to go until the roads are reopened. A very realistic scenario.
Taking the back road too can pose more dangers for you both, Paolo and Leanne. Back roads aren't the option, even if you think, I've got to scoot home, I've got to go get my cat or my dog. Back roads aren't safe, especially because they won't be visited by the CFA. Generally, it might be the last chance, oh, sorry, not last chance, last route that we actually check or go down. Is that about right, Rob?
Yeah, that's, yeah, correct.
Yeah, and sometimes in emergency situations like that, it takes an actual report of someone seeing a car go down a particular road. For a vehicle to be provided to check it out, which is a resource that's away from the fire front, hopefully. So what does this mean for you? We would like to know, well, you're new in the area, so the questions that would have come up are questions like, would you have been prepared to spend a few days away from home last summer? So if you can pop in the chat, would you have been prepared, and would you have a bag, an emergency kit bag, ready to go? And you can tell us yes or no, because we won't know, will we, Lisa?
No. And have they actually been involved, not been involved, have they actually experienced fire? Paolo or Leanne, have you experienced fire before?
Good question.
So Leanne mentions that they would be prepared to leave.
Great.
Would have been prepared to leave.
Yeah, so there are things, not just clothes in a bag, but things like your mobile phone charger, a radio with a battery operated, medications and prescriptions. And you've got a really good suggestion there, Lisa, haven't you?
Rates notice. A rates notice will get you back onto your property quicker than your Medicare form or any other form of ID, as it proves who you are and your address.
Yes, and in the 21st century, of course, you can have these things on your mobile device. Don't have to carry around a whole dossier of paperwork.
And with your emergency kit, also, like, I encourage people, like, if you eat, like Savoys have long life food in there, like biscuits and things that don't go off in a hurry as well. And a kit, do you have pets, Leanne or Paolo, that you would need to evacuate with you? So Paolo has, yes, so they both have cats and dogs. So a really good idea is to have a kit for your dog. Like when you're in a hurry, you don't want to be running around the house looking for a dog lead and things your dog will need. So like in a kit, have a few toys, bedding, food, a bottle of water for them, and a spare lead. So you can grab the box and grab the dog under your arm and be in the car, and off you go. So you're not looking for anything.
Very good advice. Thanks, Lisa. Now, I have noticed that we're at the 7:58 mark. We will take like 2 minutes till 8 o'clock. If you need to go, we understand and we thank you for your participation. If you can't stay with us, we'll be about 10 minutes. Okay, second hypothetical. Same situation as the first, same day, except when you jump on the Vic Emergency app, you see that the fire is still a little way away from your house. The yellow shaded area doesn't quite reach your property. So you think to yourself, oh, well, I've got enough time to go home and grab some important stuff. So you drive home. And as you get out of the car in your driveway, you can smell smoke, and it's really windy and really, really hot. You check the app again and you see that the little yellow triangle on the screen, it's still advice, and it's moved a little closer, but you'll have enough time, you're sure. So you frantically move about the house, grabbing important things, running them out to the car, and every now and then you check on the phone to see if you're being told to evacuate, and still nothing. So you decide that you still have time, right? So you're running through a list in your head. Okay, you've got the pets, you've got their cages, you've got photos, you've got birth certificates. What about the passports? Where did you put your glasses? Didn't you have a radio? And you notice little patches of smoke coming up from the garden bed. There's a pile of leaves you've been meaning to deal with. It's looking like it's really like a volcano. It's about to take off. Embers are falling on your house. You feel an adrenaline pump going through your body, and you know in the back of your head that you're out of time. So what do you do, and where are you going to go? Can you still drive out of your street? Is there somewhere safe you can go, or do you stay at home? Or do you grab the garden hose and try and put out those small fires? I've got a question for you to answer in the chat. These are all decisions that you need to make, and that's without taking into consideration other people. What if you have kids? Are they at school? Are they at someone else's place? Do you have someone who depends on it? What about the horses? Have they been moved out? And what if a tree comes down on the driveway of the road? So it probably feels like I'm bombarding you with questions and you may not have answers to them. This is on a webinar without an actual fire, certainly not on a hot summer's day. So let's have a think about, gee, a lot of questions there. What could you, in this pretend situation, what could you have done differently? What could you have done differently to avoid being in this situation? Do we have any responses, Lisa?
He said, thank you, great questions. Paolo said, so thank you, great questions.
Okay.
And leave early. Paolo mentioned leave early.
Yes, both. The questions that I've asked are things to consider well ahead of time and to put in a plan. For example, horses, I understand, would need to be moved and would need a couple of days to understand their new location. They have to be walked around a perimeter and introduced to the water. I've heard stories of horses being against one fence, being dehydrated because they didn't know that there was water at the other end of the paddock. So a plan. Also, on the Vic Emergency app, as Lisa has said, the fire danger ratings are given 3 or 4 days in advance. So the current day and 3 more. So extreme days or severe days, don't just suddenly jump on us. We know that things are shaping up. Do we have any more there, Lisa?
Leanne mentioned that she would go the local evacuation point and would not have gone home.
Okay, it's a good thing to do in an emergency situation, not the best plan to make, because emergency centres they're not comfortable places, and they can be crowded if everyone else has got the same idea or if everyone else has been caught. So they're there for sudden, sharp situations where your plans really, really aren't going to work.
Rob Paolo's asked where the evacuation point, which I think he might mean the neighbourhood safer place of last resort, is in Carlisle River. Where is it?
Actually, in Carlisle River, we actually do not have one.
Didn't think so.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain why?
It used to be the rec reserve, didn't it, Rob? But it's been, that's changed.
Yeah, it has changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so Paolo, there's too many trees and you won't be protected from ember attack or radiant heat. Is that about right? Well,
yeah.
You wouldn't have one? Yeah.
Yep.
And not and the entry and exit point sort of into Carlisle River wouldn't be safe for a lot of people on the road?
No.
Yeah.
So likes of the township down here, if it was myself and we had a fire come and all that, and absolute last resort, you'd go down to the bridge down near the old Carlisle shop, and yeah, that's concrete bridge, and yeah, just underneath that, you got a sandbank, and hey, lay low.
Yeah.
Yes. What we say about those sorts of places, even the bushfire places of last resort, they give you a better chance of survival, but you know, depending on the fuel load, guarantees are not a thing that we give. So it'll be the best place to be, but not the great place to be. And we've got making the plan before summer starts, enacting the plan at the trigger point that you've decided is important. Vic Emergency app gives wonderful information. Have a play with it. Even now, you can see all the information that it provides. It's not just a map of an area affected. There's all sorts of information there. And there are plans for bushfire planning workshops. So the one that we're on at the moment is an introductory level. And to actually plan, there can be workshops. There are certainly publications on the CFA website. And I mentioned at the start that there's a QR code on our last PowerPoint slide that you can take a photo of and be taken to a CFA page that has all sorts of publications to help understand the issues around your property and to make plans.
And while they're talking about making a plan, sorry, I talk too much, is about making sure you've got a backup plan, Paola and Leanne. Like today you're fit and healthy and your plan's relevant for now. But what would you do if you've got elderly parents at home? Would you have the same plan? If you've all of a sudden got a broken leg and you can't drive, keep throwing lots of scenarios to yourself, the worst case scenarios, so you can plan around what may or may not happen. Plan alternate routes to get you out safely.
And communications as well, Lisa, is one that you've mentioned. Who would you notify? Who are you expecting to hear from? And do it early rather than when the communication might be affected by a fire.
And notify people of your plan. So then while you're enacting your plan, you won't have your mum, your dad, your auntie, your cousins and everybody ringing you, hassling you about what you're doing. They'll know your plan, they'll know what you're doing, and then they won't find the need to ring you and hassle you, and you can concentrate on your evacuation and leaving early.
Yes, good point. I'm sorry I put this slide up a bit early. We've seen a similar graphic, basically natural fibres, cottons or wools, and make sure as much skin as possible is covered. So you see, oh, there's even a face mask there, Lisa. Have we not seen enough of those in the last?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
But yes, no thongs, no shorts, please. Okay, protecting yourself from radiant heat. We've already seen the message. It's possible in a fire situation to hide behind solid objects such as a rock or the house, maybe a water tank. They provide very short-term shelter, give you a bit of thinking time so that you know what to do. It's likely that these things will still catch on fire, but they will provide some protection in the very short term. If you're really caught out, there's our neighbourhood safer place up in the left-hand corner there, and we've already discussed that. A very large body of water could help you, like a river or a very large dam, but somewhere where the idea is somewhere where there's no fuel. So forget the swimming pool, be wary of stationary cars, somewhere where there's no fuel. Again, won't be pleasant, but might afford a survival option. We've discussed neighbourhood safer places. If you are in a different town when an event starts, the signage on in these graphics are the signs to look for. The green sign with the little people gathering. There'll be places that are designated with no or little fuel, which can afford some relief. No coffee vans, and may not even have toilets. All right, this slide refers to the next slide, which has got photographs of fire situations. So if you're going to be upset, please don't look. This is about our message to not drive through fire, as tempting as that may be in an emergency situation. That's because the smoke will be heavy, you'll be such poor visibility, and maybe you saw things on the TV a couple of years ago where it's just like it turns to night. A collision or driving into a fallen tree are possible, and also it blocks up the roads for our emergency vehicles. They're trying to get to the fire or to help people who are in critical situations. The last thing they need are vehicles on the road. Am I right, Rob?
Yeah, that's correct. Particularly with big fires and that. Certainly the smoke makes visibility not very good for us.
Absolutely. So they've got enough to deal with without finding suddenly sedan or a four-wheel drive in front of them. In fact, in at least three of those situations, really should not be driving. Again, we get to make a plan. We're on our, pretty much leading to the last slides. We have two publications, Your Guide to Survival, which is about looking after yourself and family, Your Guide to Property Preparation, which is exactly what it says. They are little booklets and you'll be able to find them through the QR code. Your district, District 6, has headquarters in Colac, and that's the phone number if you wish to contact them. Anything to do with tonight's presentation, or in fact, if you have any other questions about fire situation and you haven't seen Rob down the street. If any of this material, if you find you're affected by any of this material, Lifeline or Beyond Blue, and you, of course, your best support are your loved ones. So family, friends, talk about how you're feeling, because of course, fire is a very serious topic to be talking about. This is our very last slide. There is a QR code, which is fantastic. And there's also a website there to download resources now that you find yourself asking the right questions. Lucy and I will stay on the line for a few more minutes. If you have any further questions, we're happy to talk about them. If you can't stay any longer, we do understand, and we thank you so much for participating. It's really great that you've taken this first step to find out more about fire. We hope that you never meet it, but of course, if you're planned and prepared, then you'll be very much safer if the situation arises. Rob, do you have anything to say before it all wraps up?
No, unless there's any questions.
Rob, did you get my mute? Rob, Paolo mentioned that they would be interested in joining the brigade, so I said talk to you.
Yep. Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, probably the easiest way to get in contact with me would probably be through District 6, and they'll pass on my contact details and that. And yeah, I'll be more than happy to join you up.
Did you get that phone number, Paolo, or do you want us to go back a slide and pop it back up?
There we are.
There we go.
Good suggestion.
Can we get someone to help with a plan? Leanne, yes, you can get people to help you with a plan. Online, there's a lot of help, and then we encourage you to contact your local captain or your community safety officer that is with your brigade.
Who might be the same person.
Community safety. Are you, Rob, are you your brigade's community safety?
Yes.
Oh, same person. There you go. That's even easier.
Well done. Two hats.
Paolo's asked, what about the what is that turning circle? Do you mean the turning circle of he says got it. What do you mean? What about the earnings circle? Sorry, Paolo.
For trucks, is it?
It says earning of a fire truck.
Yeah.
Depending on the fire truck, like we know we've got three big heavy tankers over at Mortlake, and one is really easy to turn and the other one's not so easy to turn. But we encourage you to have a 4x4x4 area, so the gate needs to be at least 4 meters wide. And if we're coming up your driveway, you need to have it cleared at least by 4 meters by 4 meters by 4 meters to turn a truck around. And now the trucks seem to be getting bigger. I'm sure that might increase. Is that about right, Rob? Is that what you would?
Yeah, roughly about it.
Yeah.
These are very good questions.
Yep. Did you want to jump to the other slide now?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Lisa. Glad I got you.
No, I talk too much, sorry.
No, I'm sure the people find it all very valuable. There's so much to take in when you're new to an area.
Leanne, I'm not